We do this. I'm going to hit record while I explain it. Okay, because I'm going to explain it anyway. So you say something like, "Hey, this is Grant Aldridge of." Wait a minute. Now I have to get your URL right. OnlineDegree.com. There we go. And you are listening to Vroom, Vroom, Veer with Jeff Smith. Listen up. Something like that. And then I take that and I put it on somebody else's show. So when you hear your episode, I know you know this already, but I'm saying it anyway. It'll be one of these from somebody else, and then the intro, and then your show. Does that make sense?
Yep, got it.
Okay, good. I've gotten a lot of angry emails. What's that shit in front of my show? There's you and somebody else talking. I don't know what that is. You should take it off. It's confusing. I'm like, no.
Yeah, got it.
So now I explain.
I always noticed it was someone different. Like I remember before, whose show was it I was listening to? And there was a guy, but your interviewee was a woman. And I'm like, wait a second.
What's going on? Yeah. Right. It's actually, I like it because somebody else did it. Another podcaster did it. And for the first 2 or 3 episodes, I listened to it. I was like, am I on the right show? And I would actually stop and check and then go back and listen again and fast forward and, this happens every show. Okay. All right. Now I get it. Okay. Yeah. Right. So it's sort of like trying to get people's attention in a funny way.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
It doesn't always work. It pisses people off, especially guests. So that's okay. I mean, when you're pissed, you've got elevated hormones in your brain. So that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. So whenever you're ready to do that promo, I'm ready.
All right, let's do it.
Go for it.
Hi, everyone. This is Grant Aldridge with OnlineDegree.com, and you're listening to Vroom, Vroom, Veer with Jeff Smith. Prepare to veer.
Nicely done. A little too good. Now I'm going to have to leave some of the other stuff in there. Okay. So I'm going to hit stop, and I'll be right back.
Okay.
Are you ready to thoughtfully steer away from your revved up, frenzied, and far too often scripted life? Then welcome to Vroom Vroom Veer with Jeff Smith, where he guides you down the road differently traveled by sharing unique experiences with guests who have managed to shift away from a life stuck on cruise control and veered their way into a more authentic and fulfilling one in all sorts of interesting and kind of remarkable ways. Get ready to Vroom Vroom Veer with your differently traveled road chauffeur, Jeff Smith.
Dan Angelone, thank you so much for being on Vroom Vroom Veer and welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going well. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, Jeff.
Hey, we're already having fun and it's only 9 o'clock my time, so that's awesome. Thank you. I've never had so much fun in 12 minutes, so thank you. Dan's a blast. Okay, so you are at Innovative Planning Partners. That's a financial planning services company. And your URL is myinnovativeplan.com. So talk a little bit briefly about what you're most excited about in your business today.
Well, first of all, to be honest with you, a little selfish. I'm really excited about my business because my daughter is one of my partners. And we have a good team here. And one of the things that we do here that, I find exciting is that we're not the traditional come in, we'll show you charts and graphs and all that kind of crap. We don't do that. What we do is we sorry for the reference, by the way.
I like it. No.
What we do actually is we coach people on how to live. And I don't mean, we coach them on how to drink Herbalife or any of that nonsense. We coach people on how to live. Okay. We try to get them to expose what they enjoy, what they like to do, and we try to find ways to get them to be able to do it without stress.
Nice. Wow.
So it's kind of, yeah. Most recently, we just did a seminar. I call it a seminar. It really wasn't a seminar. It was more like a roundtable on grief for some of our clients because people obviously they experience grief in different ways. So we try to offer more than just the standard what you think of with financial services.
That's pretty neat. Now you just sort of piqued my interest a lot more because I think people get so lost in the idea of, oh my God, I'm not going to have enough money. And that they kind of like, maybe once they solve that problem, they get to the end and then they're kind of like bored, scared, disillusioned about, we can talk about it later, but yeah, it's good to talk about more than just money. I think once you get the money, then you realize the money is probably the least important thing.
Absolutely. And what we find, no, seriously, when you say seriously, because no matter how big your pile is,
right,
you can still live. It's just
You're
a
right.
function of what you want to do. Like, for example, if you got, $200,000 in an IRA, you're not going to go buy a Gulfstream jet. You know what I mean?
Let's hope not.
But you can go buy a pickup truck and have a few laughs that way. You see what I mean?
Yeah. It's all perspective and, how you want to live. Maybe your pile might not be big enough for lifestyles of the rich and famous, but it might be really good for beer and bowling.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And usually people that have a pile that's big enough for beer and bowling, that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
They want to drink beer and bowl.
That's right.
You don't, don't get me wrong. If I had $4 billion, I'd probably buy a new suit, but most people don't equate what they have in spending it more than they have. Let's put it that way. They don't ideally spend in their head more than they have, because that runs people into trouble.
Yeah, it's important. There's a lot of lessons that I learned on my journey, but this is Vroom Vroom Veer, so we can't just sit around and talk about your business the whole time. We have to go deep dive into Dan's life. That's right, and talk about, like, make it a therapy session where you kind of like get all squirmy.
Okay.
So tell me about your mother. No, I'm just kidding. But let's talk about what you were like. Where did you grow up, and where did you go to high school?
All right. I grew up in Providence. Well, Providence. I actually grew up in Warwick, Rhode Island, right on a beach.
Oh, nice.
And it was gorgeous. And I went to school at LaSalle Academy. I went to high school.
Ooh,
and I got my
degree.
I'm sorry. Yeah, fancy. It's a Catholic high school.
Okay.
Catholic guilt, that kind of thing. But I also I graduated from the University of Rhode Island with a degree in economics back in 1980, which obviously dates me. I'm not a kid.
Right.
Yeah. So that's where I went to school. I think probably one of my greatest achievements, to be honest with you, Jeff, is that I've been married for 38 years to the same woman. Which
that's like today. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
It was a big deal 20 years ago, but
no, really. I tell you what. You know what else I find interesting is as you get older, because obviously, most of my life I worked really hard. We did all right.
Right.
And we enjoyed ourselves. But as you get older, your priorities change dramatically. They go from, collecting the nice car and having a nice boat and all that nonsense to wanting your family together for a holiday.
Right.
Right. And as I mentioned to you before we started recording, I have two children. I have a daughter and a son. My daughter, as I mentioned, is a partner here, and she has two daughters. She has Olivia, 7, and Lily, 5. And they're probably the greatest thing since canned beer. These kids are unbelievable.
Canned beer. I like that.
Yeah. And then I have
pretty awesome.
Yeah, they are. They're incredibly fun. And then I have my son, who has 2 little boys. He and his wife have 2 little boys, Daniel and Luca.
Daniel.
And again,
I like it.
Dan, the third. Actually, they used to call my dad Dan as well.
Okay.
So there's 4 of us.
Wow.
And they're fun too. They of course they're boys. They jump off couches and
sure. They tend to break things. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. So in my immediate family, there's 10 of us, and when we get together, it's a lot of fun. And that obviously is the change in the priorities.
Sure.
Yeah,
so
a lot of fun.
Talk a little bit about like that job that you had where you were working in a more corporate environment. And say, like, how does that differ from what you are doing now? It's a lot different, right?
Well, let me start with this. First of all, I've always been an independent businessman. Always, my whole life. Although I was at Ameriprise as what they call a P2 advisor, and Ameriprise we outgrew them, and we decided to go tuck in with they call it a tuck in into an RIA or registered investment advisor. But prior to this life, which has been about 20 years now, I owned a couple of General Motors or Chevrolet franchises. So we were in the automobile business for quite a while.
Wow. Okay.
and had a lot of fun in that business, by the way. That's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of work. But, we had a couple of accomplishments that I was pretty proud of. Now, the dealership was in Rhode Island, as I met. Well, the two dealerships were both in Rhode Island. One was in Bristol, Rhode Island, and one was in Wakefield, Rhode Island. And in the Bristol, Rhode Island store, we fell into selling a whole hell of a lot of Corvettes. We were big on Corvettes.
Okay.
And at one time, we were the largest Corvette dealer in New England, and we were 36th in the world.
Wow.
And that's out of Bristol, Rhode Island. I mean, think about that for me. That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah,
how does that happen? You just sort of said you fell into it. You just sort of woke up one day and realized you were specializing in Corvettes?
Well, yeah. I had a premonition. I went to see a woman with a crystal ball. No. What happened? We built a new building. We built a new dealership. Okay. And our representative from Chevrolet at the time was a guy named Scott Settlemeyer. And when we built this new building, he said to me, Dan, how many Corvettes are you going to buy to put in this brand new building? I said, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Because at the time, Corvettes, what the hell did I know about Corvettes?
Okay.
I said, well, I don't know, 1 or 2. He says, buy 5. I said, what the hell am I going to do with 5? He says, trust me, buy 5. By the time the 5th one hit the ground, they were all gone. And before you know it, now we're starting to generate allocation for Corvettes. Before you know it, we had 30, 35 of them on the ground, and we were selling about 120 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's big for Corvettes. That's not big for trucks.
Right.
But that's big for Corvettes. And we were selling an awful lot of those things.
So you became like first the New England go-to dealership.
Yeah.
For Corvette people.
Oh, yeah.
So,
as a matter of fact.
That's neat. So basically you kind of like developed a Corvette niche without even trying. That's pretty good. You should write the book.
Yeah, we fell into it. We had, yeah. Oh, sure. We had dealerships sending people to us because they didn't have what the client needed.
Sure. No, I get it.
It was amazing. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
That's neat. That's fun.
But then General Motors started to run into trouble. And frankly, when I sold the second dealership, everybody thought I was a genius because General Motors was going bad. That's before they went broke. They went bankrupt.
Right.
Everybody thought I was a genius because I was selling the franchise. Frankly, to be perfectly honest with you, the reason I was selling the franchise is I was starting to lose money. I was giving money back. And I said,
that's a good idea.
Not a fan.
No. That means you're no longer a business. You are now in the charity world.
There you go. Exactly. So I said, it's like I said, screw this, and I sold it.
Right. So that's how you end. After you sell that, then that's when you start doing the financial planning biz.
Yeah, and frankly, the reason I got in this industry, I made the decision to get back into this industry before I actually went in with Ameriprise, and it was basically because I wanted to utilize my degree. I wanted to use my economics degree.
Okay.
Because I used it to an extent, but nothing specialized. So I said, what kind of, industry could I go into that I could be independent and I could use my, my education? And I decided on financial services. I decided to be a financial planner. And what drew me to Ameriprise at the time was their focus on planning.
Right. That's good. Yeah.
So then, I went to Ameriprise. I was there for, 15 years, something like that with them in the P1 and P2 capacity. And then my daughter and my other partner, Sean, decided, hey, let's see if there's anything else out there. And here we are.
Okay. So, everybody's got to have a plan. And I was there. It's this fun thing about plans that I think most people miss out because a lot of people don't want to plan for whatever reason. There's tons of them, right? And I think one of the many reasons that people don't want to plan is they think, what's the purpose of planning? Because as soon as you start executing the plan, everything goes to shit. Which is probably true in most cases, but it doesn't matter because, it's better than not planning at all. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, there has to be a certain plan.
Yeah.
The old term method to your madness. There has to be a method.
Right.
Anyway, that's my perspective. But I will tell you, you say everything goes to hell, but it does. But there's also the ability to adjust.
Right.
One of the things we tell our clients, and we tell them this all the time, is your goal is not designed to be reached. It's a pathway.
Right. Well
The goal
said.
is a
Yeah,
path.
that's good.
It's not. You don't want to reach a goal.
Right.
Because really, what's the end goal? The end goal is to lay down flat and have people throw dirt on
Correct.
you. So
Well, we know where we're going.
No
Right.
mystery there.
Yeah.
But
Take your time. Enjoy the ride.
Exactly.
Don't
Enjoy
skip to the end. Right.
You know, like people say to me all the time, "Oh, I don't like getting old." Yeah, you want the alternative?
I know. You know, it's not all bad. I keep saying that, and people are coming back now with interesting retorts that sometimes, like, you know, I think maybe they might need some help. People are like, I'm not so sure. You know, like, uh-oh, keep an eye on that one.
Oh yeah, you run into a lot of crazies. There's
Right.
no doubt of that.
So
But you know, it's funny because go ahead, please.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, but you know, you talk about getting old, and obviously, quality of life is the big issue, and there are things that you could do when you could do when you were younger that it's a little more difficult to do when you get older. But again, you adapt. I mean, for example, my wife and I, my family, we're boaters. We like the water, we like the summer, we like
Nice,
the beach, we like the boats, and but I used to bounce around my boat, and we have a performance boat. It's a 35-foot. Like it's a cigarette style boat. It's a Sonic, but it's a cigarette style boat, and it's loud and obnoxious and all that good stuff. But I used to bounce around that thing like Spider-Man when I was 10 years younger. And now I'm getting to the point where I get up and I clean it or something, and I get down and I hold the swell on my back.
Right.
But it's not at the point where I'm going to give it up yet.
You're not ready to turn it into a bass boat just yet.
No. No. And it's ironic because, as I mentioned, and I still live on the water. My wife and I live on the water. And Rhode Island, as you probably know, the nickname for the state is the Ocean State. And that's because we have approximately 400 miles of coastline in this state. And it's only, 30 by 40 miles or whatever it is. It's small.
Yeah.
But seafood is everywhere. I mean, the seafood restaurants and some of the best in the country. And of course, you can go fishing, you go clamming, quahogging, and all that crap. And they got lobsters and all that nonsense. And here's the irony: I hate seafood. I hate it. I can't eat it. I could never acquire a taste for seafood.
I've heard this before.
Sorry?
I've heard this before.
Yeah, I can't eat it.
Like people that live in New England sort of like don't want to eat lobster, Maine lobster. So that's you. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
so it's not just a rumor. Huh?
If you can find a school of steak fish, I'm good. But beyond that, no. And I mean, not that I haven't tried it. I've tried lobster, and when I was a kid, my mother used to steam steamers with the butter, and all. I can't eat it. I can't do it. Can't do it.
Okay.
But I have family members that love it, so off we go.
There you go.
As a matter of fact, my son-in-law and my daughter, they have a 24-foot center console that they go fishing with. And my son-in-law will go out into Rhode Island Sound and catch bass, bring it back to the house. They clean it, cook it, and eat it within an hour. And it looks great to me. It looks like it's a lot of fun, But I get near it, I smell it, and that's the end of that. No.
Where's my steak?
Give me a burger.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Eat what you want to eat.
Yeah, especially at my age.
Yeah, amen.
So I still have my teeth.
Let's talk a little bit about like the different phases. So like I mentioned earlier, like I just I want to retire in about 5 years. So now I have spent all of this time since I was like or late 20s, early 30s, just working on building the pile, right? That's what we do, right? So just recently, I want, so after I think, okay, pile big enough in about 5 years. So, then what? And I wanted to bring up two things, and I already alluded it to, when you started talking about like, the that grief counseling or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, those kind of discussions. I think there's so many more important things to think about other than money. That, one of them, okay, yeah, you have to figure out how you're going to, I don't know what the word is, stay engaged.
Yes.
Intellectually, maybe, just to have something to do that gives you a little bit of purpose. Because I tried to just live a life of leisure when I was about 38 after I retired from the Air Force.
Gotcha.
And that doesn't work. It's just boring.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you have to
You can only watch so much Dr. Phil. I mean,
you can only watch so much TV. There, the couch and beer is, it seems awesome when you're not going to work for a while,
Yeah.
and then you're like, okay, that's not fun, So learn that now. And make it part of the plan. That's what I would say. Take up a hobby. You are into boating, right?
Yes.
And your grandchildren, right? It doesn't need to be like save the world, right?
No. You don't have to go work for Greenpeace or anything. No, you're right.
No, it just has to it has to be something you enjoy that makes you feel like you're either expressing yourself artistically or somehow volunteering or contributing. Just to make you feel like you're engaged and not just checked out.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's funny you mention that because what we do with our clients, believe it or not, is like, and I have a number of clients that actually have retired and gone back to work because exactly what you described, need of purpose,
Right.
They get bored, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things that we say or we try to counsel with our clients is, what about your job do you like the most? This is before they retire. So
Right.
Think about what you do and what is the most engaging thing about what you do.
Yeah.
Like, for example, if you're a firefighter, you may enjoy cooking. I mean, I know that's a stretch, but you get my point.
I do. Yeah.
So what do? Well, you take the aspect or the most enjoyable aspect of what you do during your working years, and you try to incorporate that in your retirement years.
Yeah.
So that you can bring the best of what you did prior into your retirement years. And when you have that conversation with people, it's amazing how far they go.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people in federal service that after they retire, they come back. Now, and then when they come back, it might be like a couple days a week, maybe a day a week, but just something to give them something to do, and get them out of the house. And still, like what you said, like I don't think many people, especially if you're kind of having a job that you're not really thoroughly enjoying, like most people, right?
Yeah.
Especially towards the end, you're just like, I gotta get out of here, But when you ask them something like that, like what about work do you enjoy? They'd probably go, huh. Right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
Believe it or not, they sit and think to themselves, wow. And a lot of people, I've had them comment to me about, well, I've really never thought of it.
Right. Exactly.
But unless you are totally disgusted with what you do for a living, for example, being a politician, then you can usually pick out some parts of what you do is enjoyable.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a great conversation to have with people.
Even if it's just, like being around people and being able to help people out. That's essentially what I like about going to the job that I have right now. It's like, it's a fairly easy job. It's got like, spurts of really fun. Yeah. Oh, look, people enjoy that. I know what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and then like large gaps of extreme boredom. But that's okay. I'm okay with those sort of like numb periods. It's like, all right, I'll take this as an opportunity to learn something new. Like for the last 6 months, I've been working on my ham license for ham radio.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So I get to take a test tomorrow, and I'll be a ham. I'm already a ham. I didn't need to take the test, but it'll be official.
Yeah, actually, I did something similar. Now I'm a chicken, but yeah. Cool.
Hey, the pig is committed.
Yeah. It's a magical animal.
There you go. There you go. So let's talk about like the other thing that I learned in that where I started thinking about, okay, now that I'm going to retire in 5 years, what do I need to think about? Because to be honest with you, I thought about it zero. I just thought, well, I'll have a pile, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then when I started thinking about it, I was like, oh, right. Okay. So how do you go about living from that money? And that is like a whole nother, it's like more to think about really than the other side of that equation. You know, it's pretty easy to figure out how not to spend money. Just keep it. And, you know, hopefully you invest it in things that make more money. But then all of the opposite side is like a whole new challenge that I think I totally missed. So I'm kind of catching up now, you know.
Well, I got to tell you, you know, I think back to when I was a kid, and I'll reference my father. My father had a friend of his who was relatively successful businessman locally in Providence, and I remember him saying to me that the most beautiful music on earth is listening to the cash register ring. Okay. And I get that. I get that. But one of the things that we try to do especially with our older clients, is we try to give them a perspective as to what it is to live too.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
The biggest misconception I found with people that are not in my industry is that when they retire, it's like the page turns, and now once you're retired, every piece of that pile that you referenced
right,
has to be turned into conservative positions. That's just not the case. That's just not the case.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, if you retire in your particular case, if you retire at, let's say, 65,
right,
theoretically, you could have another 20, 25 years of life, right?
Right. Yeah.
So why would you take the whole pile and make it conservative when you're not going to spend some of it for 15 or 20 years?
Right. Right.
Yeah. So what we do is we break it up. We tell clients, listen, we're going to break it up. We're going to manage sometimes 3, sometimes 4 positions. You're going to have the immediate money that you need, because here's what I find interesting. When people first retire, there's a period of 1 or 2, maybe 3 years that they go absolutely bananas. They buy new cars. They take cruises.
Yeah.
They go out to dinner 5 times a week. I mean, it's just they really do.
They're like
and then
celebrating the fact that they're living off the pile. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. It's like the kid that goes to college and realizes he can skip class and drink beer.
Yeah.
So they go
I can
crazy.
do anything I want. Woo!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What? I don't have to go to class? Anyway.
Yeah.
So what we find is that they go bananas for the first year or 2, maybe 3.
Right.
And then things settle down. They fall into a routine.
Right.
So we try to be sure that for that that crazy period, that when you go insane, that we have enough money to be able to support that insanity.
That's a good
See
plan.
what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good plan. Yeah.
And then beyond that, we get a little bit more moderate with the secondary money, you know, the 5 to 8 year money, the 5 to 10 year money.
Sure.
And then we get very aggressive with not very, but we get aggressive with the long-term funds. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of my older clients, they find that somewhat disconcerting. They find it a little bit scary.
Sure.
You know? But if you sit down and you present the logical argument to them,
right,
it makes sense. I mean, why would we not want to try to build up that later term money as much as we can?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like I said earlier, what we try to do is we try to ask people to dream about the lifestyle they want to live. And then what we do is we assign a value to that. And we tell them, well, sometimes they can afford what they want to do. Sometimes you got to pare it back.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Sometimes they can do more.
Right. Right.
You know, because I'm going to
that.
tell you, I have one young lady who's retired. I call her young. She's a wonderful person, but she's got a pile that's bigger than most.
Okay.
And she's single, no children, and she lives on her own. And she's very philanthropic. She spends a lot of time on various philanthropic activities in her area, and scared to death that she's going to run out of money.
Mm.
No, I tell you, this woman would have to spend like a drunken sailor to run out of money.
Right.
But I have to be cognizant of her fears.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's part of that coaching thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not just mechanical. It's not just numbers. It's not just a worksheet. It's not just a spreadsheet.
Right.
It's being available to them for them to be able to unload on you if they need to.
Right. You become like a bit of a therapist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that means that eventually we're going to need therapists. But no, in the meantime, it's kind of fun.
No, it sounds like a blast. You know what?
It is.
The big thing that surprised me was like just trying. Now these are more nuts and bolts kind of issues instead of like, because I'd already figured out that just like screwing around is going to be boring. So thankfully I figured that one out earlier rather than later.
Yeah.
But the thing that struck me was like just the tactics of like, okay, so which account do I pull out of first? Mm-hmm. Right? Something so simple, and that is not an easy question. That's not the answer is different for everybody. It's absolutely different for everybody. There's no cookie cutter answer to that question. It just depends on who you are, where you're at, how big the pile is, how much money you've got still coming in retirement. There's so many different factors that you really can't just cookie cutter say, okay, you should withdraw all your 401k money first, or all of your IRA money first, or all of your Roth money first. No, you've really got to figure it out as you go, and take her year by year almost.
The rule of thumb is you set up distributions based on the tax advantage opportunities. For example,
right.
Some of my clients have a large amount of non-qualified money.
Right.
And what I mean by that is non-retirement money.
Sure.
So what we do in a lot of cases is we draw on that first, because that's not going to add a big tax burden.
Right.
Whereas
no RMDs.
Exactly. No RMDs until they're 71.5, and then we have to start taking out of the IRAs, but not the Roths.
Right.
But on the non-qualified money, when you just distribute from the non-qualified money, it doesn't create a taxable event. It's already been taxed.
Right. Exactly.
And I know lately you talk about being taxed twice, but that's another story. But in this particular case, they draw what they need. And I got to tell you a funny story. This is a true story. I had a client, unfortunately, he passed away last October, but a nice guy. And he was about 63 years old when he died. And last year, everything we distributed to him was out of his non-qualified accounts. So according to the federal government, he was destitute. Okay. Now let me explain that to you.
Okay. We
were trying to get him a medical plan, because this guy wanted the Cadillac of medical plans. He wanted everything paid for. He didn't want to. The guy would pay $1,500 a month, and he was single. Okay. It didn't matter to him.
Yeah.
Okay? So we got on one of the exchanges, and we spoke to a woman because we couldn't get a quote on a plan for him. So we got this woman on the phone who said to us, "Listen, he's Medicaid eligible." I said, "What the hell are you talking about? The guy's worth like, I don't know, $10 million. He's Medicaid eligible?" Yeah. It has nothing to do with net asset value, or it has nothing to do with your net worth.
Right.
It's all a function of your income. And his income the year before was like, I don't know, $80.
Okay.
Because everything we threw out was non-qualified. Here's a guy worth whatever the number was, I don't know, $8-10 million worth. He's on freaking Medicaid, excuse me. He's on Medicaid.
Yeah, that's insane.
What's wrong with this system? But anyway, the point is that if it's available and you can find a way to do it. Now, I don't advocate that. There should be something else in there with Medicaid, because that's just, you're robbing the system.
Right.
But you're robbing the system because they're telling you to rob the system.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the system is kind of screwed up. It's it's broke. Yeah.
Yeah. Broke. Jeez. But essentially, I mean, part of what's my job? My job is to help clients vacuum nickels out of couch cushions. That's part of my job.
That's beautiful. I love that. That's awesome.
You're welcome. You can use that.
Thank you. So how did he make himself look destitute to the IRS? Is that what you're trying to?
Not to the IRS, to the medical system. to the exchange, medical exchange. And he didn't try. But what happened was we were distributing his income, if you will, from his non-qualified account. So it wasn't taxable money.
Okay.
And so we were distributing like $120,000 a year.
And he had no taxable income.
No taxable income.
No income.
Yep.
Interesting. See, now I have another interesting problem that most people would love to have. I have automatic taxable income in my Air Force retirement.
Right.
So here's the good thing is that I have free money. That's awesome, right? Mm-hmm. But it screws up all the calculators because they don't make those online calculators to assume that you're going to have this income. So it's like, okay, how do I plug that into the calculator? Because if I plug it in as retirement, it doesn't start until my retirement date. And if I plug it in as income, the calculation gets screwed up. But anyway, I digress. So it's a good problem to have, right?
Oh,
but
yeah.
I will never have
income.
Yeah, and I will never have that problem because I'll always have a little bit of taxable income.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but anyway, go ahead.
But for intents and purposes, if you're doing a calculation, what you do is you plug it in as future income.
Yeah, but it's here today. I know it's future income, but it's also here today. So basically what I do is I like when I'm doing my calculators, I do it without that and see if I still survive.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then I know when I add it back in, it's just gravy. See it's just gravy thing. So I've done all the calculations without Social Security at all and without Air Force retirement at all, and I'm still okay. So then
there you go.
There you go.
Hey,
right.
you want to adopt me?
No.
No, damn it.
I don't need dependents, but if that ever changes, I'll let you know.
You know, it's funny because I have a client of mine who is believe it or not, a full-bird colonel.
Oh, nice!
And
wow.
Yeah, and he just retired as an adjutant for the Department of Defense after he left the Army.
Okay.
And when we calculate his income needs and his income availability, we never include COLAs or cost of living adjustments. Never. And when I figure people's Social Security, we never figure cost of living adjustments. And the same with like municipal pensions. We never figure that stuff because that is so uncertain. You don't know.
Right. Every administration is going to do whatever the hell they want to do.
Yeah. And if you look at what happened in Rhode Island a few years ago, they essentially cut the cost of living adjustment out of the state's retirement pension entirely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you got to be careful with that.
Yeah. Whenever you've got something that's based on what I like to call political whims.
Yes.
And that is that they change with the wind. Yes. Yeah. It's best not to count on those. Right.
Yeah. So, and whatever you get is, like you mentioned, it's gravy.
Yeah.
And it's fine.
Yeah. And then I think a lot of people I think it's important to throw out Social Security in your calculations when you're doing projections, because that way, even if something's there, I'm pretty sure there's going to be something there, but we have no clue what it will be. Right?
Well, I can tell you, I think in our lifetime, to be honest with you, Jeff, in our lifetime, I think the only thing you'll see change and would be for future generations, not necessarily us, is the year that you can collect Social Security.
Right. That's true. I think they have to adjust that into the future kind of thing for everybody. Yeah.
But
because we're living so much longer.
Yes, exactly. And there's fewer people putting in.
Right. That's true.
But I remember under President Bush II, President GW, whatever his name was, George. W, yes. And he was advocating or floating the idea of privatizing Social Security. Let me tell you, that would have been the best thing since you could ever do for this system. Because when you think about it, the Social Security Trust Fund, although it has a net asset value of about $2.5 trillion, you know how much is actually in it?
Not much.
Virtually nothing.
Wow.
It all got borrowed by the feds.
Oh, lovely.
All got borrowed. All you have is a big, huge box of IOUs. And that's why Seriously, I am not joking.
I know.
That's why when what's his name, Gore was running for president, he talked about that lockbox, and everybody made fun of it. And that's what we need. We need Social Security Trust Fund to be left the hell alone. But
yeah,
I think the better idea would be to offer everybody 401ks or 403bs, because that money nobody can mess with.
Yeah. Yeah. Just knowing the way government works is, I don't know how they can survive without it.
Well, yeah,
I agree that it would be better for all of us, but it's going to take some, I don't know, something like very drastic, because to me, I know this might not be a popular position, but I think the bankers and corporations and billionaires have been, running the show for so long now that,
that's only been for about the last 6,000 years.
Yeah. Only all of human history that has money. But
yes, exactly. But you know something, what I find different, and I don't disagree with you, believe me, but what I think is most different is in the United States, people can go in and out of that group. Nobody's locked into a social status.
That's true.
We have the ability to move in and out of, using the 1% as an example. People move in and out of the 1% constantly.
Well,
that's one of the.
It might not be like it's obviously not perfect, but it's the best we've got so far.
Yeah.
Economic and political anyway.
Well, I will tell you that capitalism has drawn more people out of poverty than any other system on the planet.
I would never. I am a capitalist through and through.
Yeah.
But I think there's I think we can take it a little too far sometimes.
Well, I'm going to tell you. It's funny you mention that, because I see the way I see it, and again, this is just my opinion.
Yeah.
Is government involvement is what generates that issue. Because if you left all this to the free market system, education, healthcare, if you left it to the free market system, Jeff, it finds its own level.
Atlas
It'll
shrugs.
seek its own level. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think a body of water. The economy is like a body of water. It'll seek its own level. Government intervention does nothing but screw it up. I'd like to cite, if I could, the airline industry. Remember back in I think it was the Reagan administration that they deregulated the airline industry?
Okay.
And what they were saying is, oh, God, planes are going to fall out of the sky. Nobody's going to maintain their planes, blah, 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 blah. People are going to die. The world's coming to an end, mass hysteria. What happened? Just the opposite.
It got safer. It got better.
It got safer. It got cheaper. And it got more competitive.
Yeah.
So deregulate, for God's sakes. Deregulate. You don't want to have laws. Like, for example, I am a big advocate for antitrust law.
Yeah, you got to have it.
Got to have antitrust law, but do me a favor. Put the teeth back in it. Under the Clinton administration, when they allowed Exxon and Mobil to merge, that was the end of the antitrust. That was the end of that law.
Really? That was.
But now put some teeth in it.
Right.
And by the way, you got to subjugate insurance companies to those same antitrust laws, because right now they're exempt.
Really?
Yes. They collude. They collude on pricing, and it's legit. It's legal.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's that goes all the way back to that whole too big to fail AIG thing.
I don't believe in that too big to fail crap.
I know.
Not at all.
That's I know. That's because that's the government taking, I don't know how many trillions of dollars.
Actually, 2.1, I believe, the total in those TARP programs.
Yeah.
It was like $1 trillion. And I remember former Senator John Sununu from New Hampshire. I think he was the governor at one point. He was saying on the floor when they were debating that TARP program, the second one, the one under the Obama administration. And he said, listen, he says, bankruptcy is what's there for inefficient companies. We're not there to bail out inefficient companies. That's what bankruptcy is for. And he's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And that TARP situation gave a lot of these major banks and these major financial institutions licenses to steal. Let me give you an example.
No, I was there. Yeah, please.
Yeah. Do you remember Genworth?
No.
Genworth was a division of GE. It was a division of GE that was a financial arm,
Okay.
very similar to CAP. And they did not qualify for TARP money under their circumstance. So you know what they did? They went out and they bought a credit union so they would qualify for TARP money.
And they let them get away with it.
Yeah. They gave them Go figure. Sign me up. I mean, give me,
Yeah.
God.
It's good to be a billionaire, apparently.
Oh yeah, well, I suppose. But it's so frustrating because what are they doing? They're taking my money and your money and people at work's money, and they're giving it to people that don't need it.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What are you going to do?
That is human nature, though. The 48 laws of power still apply. They're just harder to see.
Yes. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And the irony is that most of these people that are setting these scams up and these schemes up, I shouldn't say scams, these schemes up,
right,
are doing it relative to the action that the Fed takes.
Of course.
So, federal government, go do what you're designed to do. Protect us, make sure our borders are secure, and go away.
And let the capitalistic system, let the economy breathe and work the way it's supposed to. Yeah,
that's exactly right. One of the main reasons that we're seeing the growth in our economy that we're seeing now, and again, in my estimation, is because so much regulation went away.
Well, I think our current administration, even though it takes a lot of crap, is doing a lot of good things. I do as well. Yeah,
I do. Yep.
Some of the tax reforms were pretty damn amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it gets lost in the
politics,
in the circus, as they call it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a circus. It's kind of sad, but it is what it is, and that's never going to go away. It's always going to be.
Yeah. Well, this has been a blast. Let's talk a little bit more, but as we wrap up. So you are again at Innovation Planning Partners. No, sorry, I said that wrong. Innovative Planning Partners. And the URL
did a bonus round.
Is myinnovativeplan.com. So
Correct.
Talk a little bit about how people can best get in touch with Dan Angelone.
There you go. Well, actually, probably the easiest way is to email me at daniel.angelone@myinnovativeplan.com.
Gotcha.
You could get on our Facebook page at Innovative Planning Partners. Go to our website at, again, myinnovativeplan.com. And any way of those, any particular way you can reach me. And by the way, if it's any consolation, here's a shameless plug.
Yeah, please. This is your opportunity.
I work with people all over the country because I see like what we're doing now. I mean, I Skype with people, I email people. I mean, it's really, and these are people that have been in my satellite view, if you will, for the last roughly 18, 19 years. I work with a lot of the same people for years. And so I work with people all over the country, as does everyone in my firm, both Sean and Christina. And we have an assistant that works for us as well, who's really fabulous, who was a client, who's still a client, actually.
Wow.
But yeah, we work with people all over the place.
And you got to have a plan.
You got to have a plan. You got to have a plan. Got to have a plan. You got to have goals to aim toward, but you don't want to achieve them. Well, you shouldn't achieve them. They should constantly be changing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know something? If I could give one message,
please,
to anybody that's listening, is have some stinking fun. Stop worrying about all this stuff. I mean, you gotta have a plan, but don't let it consume you. Go out and have a laugh. There are things you can do that are free, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
No?
Everything's going to work out.
Yeah. I mean,
Call Dan, make a plan, then have some fun.
Yeah, have some fun. We can help you have fun.
There you
I
go.
can tell you that.
At any level of pile size.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. We can have some fun.
All right. Well, this has been a blast. I appreciate you hanging out with me for an hour, Dan.
Sure.
And I will talk to you again soon, I hope. Have a good one.
All right. You too, Jeff. Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for taking the time to ride along with us on another episode of Vroom Vroom Veer. For podcast info and show notes, be sure to head over to vvveer.com. That's VVER.com. Man, that's fun to say. And we'll catch up with you next time here on Vroom Vroom Veer.